Hello and welcome to my channel, Health and Wellness with Emma Mentel. I've had such interesting cases in the last while, and I thought I would share today with you my interpretation or my take on the aggravation of symptoms when someone starts on a protocol, or why some people experience what some refer to as a healing crisis. Thank you for joining me for this conversation. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing to my channel and for sharing the information that you might find helpful and useful. So what sometimes happens is that somebody might come to see me in my practice with a complaint, for example, fatigue. They would not mention that any other symptoms are pronounced or severe, but that they just wanted to find a solution for something like fatigue. It might be that they've had prolonged periods of stress, or that there's some underlying viral concern, something like Epstein-Barr or glandular fever. Sorry, I suddenly forgot what the general name is that we refer to. And then I would take a history and I would make some recommendations based on what I think they would most benefit from. Typically, I would always suggest a good concentrated B vitamin or a multivitamin with lots of B vitamins in it for somebody with fatigue and also ongoing stress concerns. I would recommend perhaps a higher dosage of vitamin C to go with that. I would usually always recommend a form of magnesium as support, especially if this individual is not getting enough sleep. And then I would add other specifics depending on what I feel the priorities are. It might be an olive leaf extract, something for viral or immune support. It might also involve a digestive kind of support. And then what might happen is that somebody who hasn't experienced any other symptoms except for the fatigue might find that some symptoms return with a vengeance. Perhaps brain fog, perhaps the fatigue would get worse, perhaps they would end up getting some headaches, or something else might flare up. And of course, people find this extremely uncomfortable, especially since they wanted to address a particular set of symptoms like fatigue, and they didn't want any other symptoms to get worse or flare up or suddenly return. And why does this happen? How do we explain this to somebody who is now already a bit frustrated and wanting something to get better, not necessarily anticipating something getting worse? Some people just say things get worse before they get better, but that's not always a justifiable explanation. So what I would normally consider, and these are just some of the points that I try to explain to clients in my practice. The first thing is that the first consideration is that the absence of symptoms don't necessarily mean that the body is doing well or that there is balance and harmony. So absence of other symptoms might not mean that the body is dealing with anything at all. Sometimes that person or that individual is so fatigued or so depleted that the body is not able to respond. And it might mean that when we're adding nutrients, we now giving the body almost a certain kind of vitality and life force that's going to stir things up, and that might move things that have been dormant for some time to the surface. This, of course, might feel uncomfortable, but someone being symptomatic or something flaring up, it can be an indication that at least we've added some life force to the situation. Because when the body is producing a symptom, it shows us that at least there's energy available now for the body to recognize something as like an intruder. The principle of an intruder, I sometimes explain that if the body's alarm system has become used to something always being there, or just too depleted to react, then it's like there's someone entering your house, but the alarm system doesn't necessarily recognize that, or it's just too sluggish to react. So now when we're adding these nutrients, your alarm system might suddenly become aware of certain things that are around, and maybe they've been around for a long time, and now the body is becoming reactive. With this reaction or flaring or this aggravation of symptoms, it might also indicate to us that we have to support elimination pathways better. By elimination pathways, I mean the digestive tract, the liver, the kidneys, the lymph. If suddenly we've stirred up some of the old symptoms that have been dormant, we want to make sure that the body is able to eliminate certain toxins, or perhaps we are doing a parasite program, or we're trying to get rid of certain viruses that have been sitting around, and we want to make sure that the body is able to eliminate that. So by activating the immune system, by sort of reactivating certain things that cause symptoms, we want to now also be supporting the elimination pathways. So symptoms that are dormant, in other words, they're not pronounced, and they're not necessarily unpleasant or reactive, don't imply that there's nothing that the body is dealing with. And when we are creating an aggravation by adding nutrients, we should not, or we should try not to view this as supplements causing symptoms. So of course some people want to then step away from these nutrients and rather just go back to where they started. But if somebody's been through a few months or maybe even a few years of all sorts of things going on, perhaps digestive concerns, viral concerns, toxicity concerns, toxic burden because of whatever procedures they've undergone, maybe anesthetics, maybe some medications, some antibiotics, the body is now trying to get into a process of restoring the balance. And that might, for some, feel like an aggravation of symptoms. I'm sure some of you would resonate with this, and how frustrating it can be when we really look for solutions to make something feel better, and then it starts to get worse. And of course, in Western medicine, when anything feels worse, we want to suppress it, we want to calm it down, and we want to make sure that these symptoms go away. Very few clients that I see in my practice have the patience to see things through when the body is actually attempting to heal and restore and repair. So when the body lacks the ability to shift, you might be asymptomatic, but you might not be feeling amazing. You might not be feeling optimal. And sometimes it takes a while. If we go very slowly with introduction of certain detoxification protocols or adding certain nutrients, one can go very slow and very low with dosages, and it might take a bit longer. Or if somebody has the capacity to maybe take some time out or just give themselves a few weeks for things to start shifting, you might feel that after 2 to 3 weeks that things start to feel a bit better. Of course, healing is not linear, and that is one of the things that we know in the more natural approach to health and healing. The more integrative approach to health and healing is that you don't start here at the bottom and then you just get better and better. We sometimes see that things get a little bit better and then they get worse, and then they stay the same, and then they get better and then they get a bit worse. So it's a little bit of an uneven curve as we deal with healing using nutrients, using herbs sometimes, or homeopathic remedies, or the detoxification pathway. It's important to work with intentions. Where do you want to get to? And whether you are willing to see things through. Also to feel the emotions that are stirred up when we're working on a physical level, and whether you are willing to perhaps incorporate some kind of a spiritual approach as well, working with meditation, working with other healing modalities. Anything and everything that you add will help to support. Of course, I love fasting as a tool, especially when there's a whole lot of different things that we are dealing with, and just to get the body into that space where it can focus on the healing. Detoxification, in my opinion, is extremely important because we are exposed in our lifetimes to so many toxins, and when the toxic burden is too great, the body starts to just shut down some of the essential activities, and the liver is just trying to cope with the toxic burden, let alone dealing with all the essential daily functions. So this is my take on what sometimes can be referred to as a healing crisis or aggravation of symptoms when someone starts with a nutritional protocol that includes maybe higher doses of certain nutrients, or starting with a kind of a detoxification process. Of course, every journey is an individual journey, and no two clients or patients would have the same response to the same protocol. We are very different in what our exposure has been in the last decade or 2 decades, or in your lifetime. It is also very difficult or virtually impossible for a practitioner like myself to anticipate how someone is going to respond to a protocol. So I don't sit and think, what is the worst I can make somebody feel by adding a particular protocol as a recommendation. Sometimes these responses are completely unplanned, and there's nothing that can make us necessarily anticipate that. So if you're working with a practitioner who is using a natural approach, or if you want to work with someone like myself in my practice, I think one should always be a little bit patient and anticipate that sometimes things are not just going to get better from the beginning. But if you have tried various modalities, various medications, various Western medicine approaches, and you are still not feeling incredibly well and amazing and full of energy and sleeping well, full of vitality and life force, then perhaps you would want to consider a slightly different approach, even if it's going to take longer to get you to a place where things are in better balance, where your body is in a harmonious state, and where you can achieve optimal well-being. I look forward to hearing about your experiences. Please leave your comments. Please like and share this video, and please join my channel for more educational YouTube videos about health and healing. Thank you for watching.